The dawn never came to Velharrow. The kingdom remained wrapped in its endless twilight, a world between day and night, where time felt heavy and dreams felt real. Prince Kael stood on the balcony of his chamber, watching the mist curl over the courtyards. He could still hear Serenya's voice from the night before. "The truth will set the curse free." Those words haunted him more than the whispering shadows. Below, the people moved like ghosts through their daily routines. No laughter, no song, only quiet steps and bowed heads. Kael's knights were uneasy, whispering about leaving the cursed kingdom. But Kael could not leave, not while answers waited in the dark. He felt drawn to Serenya, not just by curiosity, but by something deeper, something that reached beyond reason. There was a sadness in her that felt familiar, like a reflection of his own. Later that morning, the king's council gathered in the great hall. The air was tense, the torches flickered, and the scent of burning herbs filled the room. King Edric sat upon his throne, his gaze sharp and suspicious. "The curse grows restless," he said. "3 of my guards vanished last night, and the shadows spoke the name of Dareth. Prince Kael, does your kingdom still carry the mark of the old vow?" Kael bowed his head. "I do not know, your majesty. My father never told me all that happened during the war." A murmur ran through the court. Serenya stood beside her brother, silent, her face calm but her eyes troubled. Kael noticed the faint glow beneath the fabric on her wrist, the same sigil that had flared when she fought the spirits. One of the advisors, an old scholar with eyes clouded by magic, spoke up. "Perhaps it is fate, my king. The curse has waited for generations. Now the blood of those who broke it stands before us. Maybe it seeks balance." The king's voice grew harsh. "Balance through death or through truth?" Serenya said softly. Every head turned toward her. She stepped forward, her voice calm but clear. "The curse is bound by lies. If the prince's blood carries the truth of what was done, perhaps he is the key, not to destroy us, but to end the silence that feeds it." The king frowned. "You speak as if the curse were a living thing." "It is," she whispered. "And it remembers." After the council dismissed, Kael followed Serenya through the silent corridors. She did not look back, but she seemed to know he was behind her. "Why did you speak for me?" he asked when they reached the courtyard. "Because the curse will test you," she replied. "And if you do not understand its voice, it will use your guilt against you. You said last night the truth could set it free. Why fear that?" She turned toward him, her eyes distant. "Because freedom is not always mercy." They walked among the silver trees, their branches glowing faintly under the eternal moonlight. Kael noticed her hand tremble slightly. "You are afraid," he said softly. "I am bound," she answered. "Fear is the only thing the curse lets me keep." He wanted to say something, to promise he would help her, to ask what bound her so tightly. But the words caught in his throat. He could only watch as she walked ahead, her figure graceful and cold, like a statue of light carved from ice. That night, Kael could not rest. The walls whispered faintly, the same soft voices that haunted the garden. Unspoken love feeds the seal. Confess or be consumed. He rose from his bed, heart pounding, and followed the whispers. They led him down winding staircases and torchlit tunnels until he reached a door of black stone. On it was carved the symbol of the moon, Serenya's mark. He hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside was a vast chamber filled with ancient runes and dim blue fire. In the center stood Serenya, her robe flowing like liquid shadow. She was surrounded by glowing sigils drawn on the floor, her eyes closed, her lips moving in silent prayer. Kael stepped closer, but the air grew cold, heavy with magic. The runes pulsed faster, the light flickering wildly. "Stay back," she said without opening her eyes. "What are you doing?" "Keeping the curse asleep," she whispered. "It stirs when I am weak, when I feel too much." Her voice broke slightly on those words. Kael's chest tightened. "You carry this burden alone?" "I must. My blood was chosen generations ago to be the lock on the darkness." I am not just the king's sister. I am the gate. Her eyes opened then, and Kale saw the faint tears that shimmered like frost on her lashes. I envy you, she said quietly. You are free to feel sorrow. I am not. Kale took a step forward despite her warning. If you never feel, how can you live? She gave a soft, bitter smile. I don't live. I endure. The sigils flickered again, the room trembling. The blue light turned red for a moment, and a shadow rose behind her, tall, shapeless, whispering in 100 voices at once. Kale drew his sword. Behind you! But Serenia only raised her hand, her expression calm. Do not fight it. It is the echo of forbidden things. The shadow shifted closer to Kale, its form twisting. It whispered in his voice, repeating his thoughts, his regrets, his secrets. You came for forgiveness. You crave what you should not. Kyle froze. The whispers dug deep, pulling memories of his father's war, of the relics stolen from this land, of his own shame. Stop it, he whispered. Serenia's voice cut through the darkness. The curse feeds on denial. You must not hide from it. The shadow circled him, laughing softly. He hides not only guilt, but desire. Kale felt his heart pound. The shadow showed him an image. Serenia's face in the moonlight, her hand reaching toward his. No, he shouted, swinging his sword through the darkness. The light shattered, the echo screamed, and the chamber fell silent. Serenia fell to her knees, breathing hard. The runes dimmed. Kale rushed to her side. Are you hurt? She shook her head weakly. It's only the curse. It grows stronger each time truth is spoken aloud. He frowned. Truth. What truth did it hear? She looked up at him then, and though she said nothing, her eyes gave him the answer. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavier than the curse itself. When Kyle helped her stand, Serenia's hand lingered in his. Her skin was cold, but the touch felt alive, trembling. You must leave, she whispered. Before the curse binds you too, I cannot. Why? He hesitated. Because leaving you here would mean I learned nothing. Her lips parted slightly, as if to speak, but then she pulled her hand away. You think this is noble, Prince Kale, but it is not. The curse does not destroy with hate. It destroys with love unspoken. She turned from him and began to walk away, her robe brushing softly against the stone. Serenia, he said quietly. What if I spoke it? She froze. The air between them tightened, like the pause before a storm. Then slowly she looked back over her shoulder. Her silver hair caught the torchlight, her eyes shining like winter stars. Then you would doom us both, she whispered. The next day, Valharo trembled with unease. The fog grew thicker, and the people lit candles in their windows. The curse was awakening, spreading whispers through the walls. Kyle rode out with a few guards to the edge of the forest surrounding the castle, hoping to find the missing men. The trees were silent, the air cold. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the bark, the same marks from the hall and the chamber. As night fell, the fog moved again. Shapes emerged, not shadows this time, but human figures, pale and hollow-eyed. The missing guards, Kyle dismounted, heart pounding. What happened to you? One of them opened his mouth to speak, but only a low whisper came out. The seal breaks. She cannot hold it. Before Kale could ask more, they crumbled into dust. He turned toward the castle, and in the distance, lightning split the sky. When he returned, the throne room was empty. Only Serenia stood there, facing the great window where moonlight poured through. The seal is weakening, she said without turning. It reacts to emotion, to longing, to truth. When hearts stir, it cracks. Kale stepped beside her. Then teach me how to help you hold it. She looked at him, and this time she did not hide the fear in her eyes. If you help me hold it, you will become part of it. The curse will claim you, he smiled faintly. Then perhaps I was meant to be here. Serenia took a step toward him, her voice trembling. Stop faking like you don't want this too, Kale. The curse hears lies, and every time you deny it, it tightens its grip on us both. Her words hung between them like a spell. Kale's breath caught. He reached out as if to touch her, but before he could, the sigil on her wrist blazed crimson. Her eyes widened in pain. The light swallowed her whole, and she vanished into thin air, leaving only a faint trace of ash drifting through the moonlight. The kingdom of Valhalla was a place where the sun forgot to rise. For centuries, an endless dusk hung over its valleys and stone cities, a heavy twilight that never lifted. The air smelled of rain and iron, and the sound of whispering winds followed travelers like unseen ghosts. It was said the land was cursed, not by wrath, but by sorrow. Long ago, its royal bloodline had made a vow to seal away a great evil. But that vow had twisted over time, binding the people and the land in chains of grief. And now, into this shadowed kingdom rode Prince Kael of Dareth. He came with a small escort of knights and a sealed letter of peace. His father, the king of Dareth, had sent him as an emissary, hoping to end generations of quiet hatred between their realms. But Kael's true purpose was heavier, for his own family's greed had once fed this curse, and only he carried the guilt of knowing it. As the gates of Valhalla opened before him, the prince saw the truth of the stories. The castle walls were dark as ash, twisted with roots that pulsed faintly as if alive. The torches burned with blue fire, and strange symbols glowed faintly on the stones. The people did not cheer for him. They only watched, silent and pale, as if afraid to speak in daylight that never came. Inside the castle, he was greeted by King Edric, a man with sharp features and eyes too bright for the dimness around him. Beside the throne stood a woman, tall, graceful, and otherworldly in her stillness. Her hair shimmered silver under the torchlight, and her eyes were the pale blue of frozen rivers. The king introduced her softly. "This is my sister, Lady Serenia of Valhalla, keeper of the moonbound seal." Kael bowed. "Your Grace." Serenia inclined her head but said nothing. Her gaze brushed past him as if seeing something beyond. For a moment, Kael felt the strange pull of her presence, calm yet haunting. It was like standing before a mirror that reflected not your face but your soul. The court spoke in whispers. They called her the moon-bound heir, the one chosen to bear the mark of the curse that held Valhalla together. That night, as Kael dined in the hall with nobles and soldiers, he felt the weight of watchful eyes. Every movement, every word, seemed to echo through the silence. The king spoke little, and Serenia spoke not at all. When the meal ended, Kael excused himself to walk the castle corridors. The moon hung large outside the stained-glass windows, a pale light seeping through colored glass that painted the stone floor in shades of sorrow. He wandered into the Hall of Echoes, where murals told the story of Valhalla's fall, a demon sealed beneath the castle, a royal line bound to its shadow, and the final vow, to keep the darkness asleep, one must live with its heart. Kael stared at the painting of a woman kneeling before the seal, her hands covered in blood and light. The resemblance to Lady Serenia was undeniable. "She was my ancestor," came a soft voice from behind. Kael turned. Serenia stood in the doorway, her face half hidden by the moonlight. She wore no crown, only a dark robe that shimmered faintly as she moved. "You should not walk alone here," she said gently. "The castle remembers the living." "The living?" he repeated. She stepped closer. "Yes, it whispers to those who carry secrets. And you, Prince Kael of Dareth, you carry one heavy enough to wake the dead." Her tone was calm, almost kind, but her words struck like a blade. Kael looked away. "Then perhaps the dead should speak and tell me how to make this right." Serenia's lips curved into something like a sad smile. "If they could, they would only ask you why you came." Later that night, the sound of distant thunder rolled through the mountains. Kael could not sleep. He stood at the balcony, looking out at the dark horizon where the fog glowed faintly with unnatural light. He thought of Serenia's eyes, how they seemed to see through his armor, past his face, straight into the regret he carried. For years, he had known that his father's war had broken the sacred balance of Valhalla. Their soldiers had stolen relics meant to guard the curse, believing them to be treasures. That theft had weakened the seal, and the darkness began to spread. Cale had volunteered for this mission not only as a prince but as a man seeking forgiveness. But forgiveness in Valhalla was not easily found. The next morning, the king summoned Cale to the Hall of Mirrors, a long chamber filled with glass that reflected distorted versions of those who walked within. King Edric's voice was firm. "The curse grows restless since your arrival. My advisors tell me your presence has stirred the shadows." Cale frowned. "I mean no harm. I came to bring peace." The king's expression darkened. "Peace is a fragile word here, Prince of Dareth. Our peace was buried centuries ago." Before Cale could reply, a cold wind swept through the hall. The mirrors flickered, showing ghostly faces. The torches died out, and a low moan filled the air. The king drew his sword. The curse awakens, and then silence. The mirrors stilled. The light returned, but something unseen had changed. Cale turned to find Serenia standing at the doorway once more, her expression unreadable. "The curse knows you now," she said softly. "You should not have come here." That evening, Cale went to the courtyard garden where pale flowers bloomed under the moon. Serenia was there again, her hands gently touching the petals. "They only bloom in darkness," she said. "Light kills them." "Like this kingdom," Cale murmured. She glanced at him, her eyes glimmering faintly. "You speak as if you pity us." "I do not pity you," he said. "I pity myself for being part of what cursed this land." Serenia's hand paused over a flower. "So you admit it?" He nodded. "My father's greed broke the seal. I came to undo what he began." Serenia looked at him for a long time. Then she whispered, "The curse feeds on regret, Prince Cale. It twists guilt into chains. If you carry too much of it, you will never leave this place." Cale met her gaze. "Then I will stay until it ends." Something flickered in her eyes. A fragile spark of emotion she quickly hid. "You speak like a fool," she said. "The curse is not undone by courage or guilt. It ends only with surrender. Surrender to what?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "To truth." Before he could ask more, a sudden cry echoed through the courtyard, a guard shouting from the battlements. "The shadows rise. They move through the walls." Cale drew his sword and ran toward the gate, but Serenia caught his arm. Her touch was cold as water, yet it burned through his sleeve. "Do not fight them," she said. "They are not enemies. They are memories." But it was too late. From the garden walls, long shapes slid out of the stone, human in form, but hollow-eyed, like smoke wearing skin. They whispered in voices Cale could barely understand. "Blood of Dareth, breaker of vows." Cale's hand trembled as he lifted his blade. The shadows circled him, their touch freezing the air. Serenia raised her hand, and a light shimmered around her, a sigil of the moon glowing across her wrist. The spirits recoiled. The ground trembled, then, just as suddenly, all fell still. The garden was empty again. Only the flowers remained, their pale petals drifting through the air like ash. Serenia turned to him, her face pale and drawn. "You see now? The curse has awakened." Cale breathed hard. "Why does it know me?" "Because your blood remembers what your heart tries to forget," she said quietly. "And now it will not rest until it is satisfied." The wind grew colder, the torches dimmer. Somewhere deep beneath the castle, a low rumble echoed, like a heartbeat stirring after centuries of silence. Serenia looked toward the horizon, where the mist trembled faintly. "Tomorrow," she said, her voice almost breaking, "the court will demand answers. And when they do, you must not tell them the truth." Cale frowned. "Why?" She turned her eyes toward him, and for the first time, he saw fear in them. "Because the truth will set the curse free." The night closed around them, and the last sound before the darkness fell was the whisper of the wind, carrying her words like a promise and a warning both.